Well, hello. Who are you?
My name is John Knox. I was born in Scotland in 1514. My father, William Knox, was a good father, raised me well. I grew up learning the scriptures. Then, in 1532, I went to the University of St. Andrews. I studied long and hard to become a priest. I was raised in a Catholic setting, but soon things would change.
How did they change?
After 4 long, successful years at St. Andrews, I was ordained a Catholic priest. However, I began to dig deeper into Catholicism, and I found many faults. I soon rejected it and joined the movement to reform Scotland. My good friend George Wishart had a good influence on me.
Did persecution occur?
Indeed, we suffered much for the gospel to be preached to the hard hearts of the people of Scotland. I began to preach against Mass and the Catholic Church. Now, Catholicism had to be abolished in Scotland.
You tried to destroy the Catholic Church? You must have been bold.
I had to be bold, for too many Protestants were afraid of the government. I didn't care. What good will we do as a silent church? Nothing good at all. We needed to act, and act quickly. But persecution had begun under Cardinal David Beaton. He was a wicked man, ordering the imprisonment of Christians around Scotland. He delighted in the torture of God's people, and he committed heinous crimes.
Did he target you?
No, but I'm sure he kept his eyes open. Sadly, in 1546, the wicked David Beaton had ordered the death of my good friend, George Wishart. However, Beaton was killed a few weeks later by a Protestant mob, mad over Wishart's death. However, I immediately went to the castle where Beaton had been killed to preach and teach the mob. That was a sad mistake. The French army, allies with Scotland, came and took the castle we were staying in and enslaved us.
You were a slave? What could you do?
I could only pray and continue my work, even as a slave. I had to spread the message of the gospel to my fellow slaves and continue to work for the French. It was horrible. We were forced to work on their ships as galley slaves, rowing and doing chores for the sailors. I did my best to minister to my fellow slaves. I often said Christ had endured much more horrible things than we were enduring. We were taken to many prisons along the way, and we rowed and rowed until we could do it no longer. We did many back-breaking chores, all under the hateful eye of a soldier. I ministered to the best of my ability.
You must have been disheartened.
I was, but I tried to find hope in the Lord. This gave me comfort, for the French were merciless. When we were finally released, I returned to Scotland exhausted and weary. When I felt better, I wrote against Catholicism even more. I also married Marjorie Bowes.
You were married? How many children did you have?
I had 2 with Marjorie, and when she passed away, I remarried and had 3 more with my second wife.
Did you write any books?
I wrote many pamphlets, but they angered people. But I was not prepared for what happened next. I was exiled to England. But then I had to flee when another wave of persecution followed. And this time, I fled to Geneva, Switzerland, where I met John Calvin, a preacher of the gospel of Jesus and an enemy of Catholicism. We worked together for a time, trying to establish the Protestant views back into Switzerland. Calvin also helped me with my theology and gave me a better understanding of the scriptures. Calvin was very knowledgeable and gave me much wisdom.
John Calvin was a very wise theologian indeed. I heard an acronym that summed up his work. TULIP.
That's true, but that was not made until after Calvin's death. Anyway, his teachings had made a great impact upon me. After that, I traveled to Germany to minister to a struggling church filled with refugees from the English persecution. But I was rejected when they insisted I use a modern and Catholic version of the Book of Common Prayer. So we went back to Geneva. This was filled with more arguments on Catholicism and threats. The persecution was so intense that we went to my sister-in-law's house back in Scotland, which did us good. But soon I felt the need to return to Geneva.
You traveled a lot.
We did, always to expand God's kingdom. My chief desired to see it done in Scotland. But for now, we were in Geneva. There we had a peaceful time, though I wrote a lot. Then we returned to Scotland, preaching and teaching the people.
And I assume you persisted in reforming Scotland.
I did. Admonishing rulers, correcting faults, suffering hardships. Decades passed, and finally, tired and weary, I settled down in Edinburgh, Scotland. Though I did much traveling, I did my best to oppose evil rulers, and God helped me do his will. When I was gone, Reformation was finally realized. I always had that vision, but I always remembered, even if earthly men like me do not succeed in reforming the church, Christ will be victorious, and he will reign forever. That is what everyone should continue to think about, that Christ will be victorious.